right. Technology, machines, robots. Getting the instruments clean requires the human factor. Now this is a position that I have. And I woke up one night and I had this thought. Because I had just gotten through with Premier, visited my hospital, they looked at all of our processes, and they went upstairs, we had a meeting, and then you all know how it is, we got this full report, and the report said I had too many FTEs. Yeah. You've been there. They said you have the technology, you have a tracking system, you have washers, you have the autoclaves, you have all these things that will help you. You really do not need all of these people. And I said, I beg to differ. I really do. So it got me to thinking about what we have in our departments and how we have to take the stance of what is important to us to do our jobs. And our jobs are patient safety. Now let me do a little disclaimer. You're going to see a picture of a gentleman with a beard. We know he should have his beard covered, but we didn't get it covered for the picture. We were more interested in the technology that was in the picture rather than the person. So if you see some pictures, a couple where the people aren't just right, understand that we know better. But the picture that we pulled off of the internet and or that was sent to me had them out of place. But if you see something that's wrong, just make a note of it and don't do it at your hospital when you get there. The objectives: to understand how human factors and critical thinking trump technology alone, to learn about new technologies for instrument processing, to explain how the use of technology can improve process as we produce instrument sets for patient care. Because overall, what we do is patient care. So here I have a decontamination area with some technology. The young lady looks really, really, that's a beautiful, I was trying to, I'm getting ready to build a new hospital and I'm taking pictures and saying, this is what it should look like. But I know within my budget, they're going to not let me have all of this. So our role, it's up there. You know what we do every day. But the passion that is within me says, you are to do no harm. Be you the director, the supervisor, the manager, the lead tech, the peon's first peon, you're to do no harm. Machines are predictable and reliable as long as they're working, right? Humans are unpredictable and unreliable, and our ability to process information is limited due to the capacity of our working memory. What happened with Corey over with the endoscopes we talked about earlier is that apparently the people had a brain lapse. They couldn't remember the steps to clean the endoscope. So humans are relatively sometimes unreliable. Your best tech, you know your tech knows what they're supposed to do. And they say, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Or they try to tell you, what is the line they use? Nobody ever showed me that. And you know for real that you did personally. The potential for harm is great when technology is mishandled because of human errors. I have a tracking system and my people can put a tray together, and I'm only going to talk about my people and leave the mosquitoes off. But they used the tracking system that they had to click. You know, we have the one that you take it off as you put it on the tray. And their tray can still get upstairs with something missing. So we know that human beings can make things go wrong. You all like my robot? She's holding the brain. New and modern technology helps us work smarter rather than harder. So we need technology. I'm not saying we don't need the technology, because the technology allows you to not work as hard. I've been doing this over 25 years, back from the olden days. And so I am so glad for where we are now. I am so glad that I don't have a linen room where I'm running towels across the black light looking for holes and somebody at the other end putting a patch on it. I don't want to go back there. So I want the technology, but I need the human being with the brain, not in the robot's hand, but in their head working, because I need critical thinking. Our people need to be able to do critical thinking, just like the nurse, the doctor, the anesthesiologist. Am I right? We need to be able to think. And we can think. Can you think? Are you able to think through processes and problems? I know I can. And I try to instill that in my people every day. So yes, I want the technology, I want the machine, and I want the robot, but I know I need the human being to make sure that they know these things are working. How is it that you can have a machine that hasn't been running on the right time for 3 weeks when you had a human being standing in front of it every day? Because they aren't able to do critical thinking. Here's another area. Automated floor-loading double-door sterilizers. I just found beautiful stuff. So I sent this to the administration. I said, you think in our new hospital we can get this? We're doing enough vendor trades to have these type of sterilizers. And it would be so much better for us physically if they just came and rolled it in and rolled it out. Robotic decontamination washer disinfector shuttle system. Here's this beautiful shuttle system, but you still need the human factor. Why? Because I have not found one case cart being able to come down to my SPD and the instruments jump up on the washer. I just haven't. I would love for it to be that way. I would love for it. I'm in a 100-year-old hospital, so we have a dumbwaiter system. I would love for the dumbwaiter door to open up, the cart roll off, roll around the corner, stop in front of the washer decontaminator, little beep, 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 and the trays hop up and get on the right levels. Make sure that the lock boxes are open. Make sure gross bioburden has been removed, and then go on about his business. Yes, I wouldn't need an FTE in that spot. But the reality is that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Even at the Ford, Chrysler plants where they put cars together, they still got human beings in front of the robots. So why is it that someone can come to our hospital, spend 2 hours in our SPD, and go back and say, get rid of 6 people? And we say, okay. No, not okay. Because what you do impacts patients' lives, and you need the human beings with the ability to have critical thinking to be in there to make sure the instruments were open, that the gross bioburden was removed, that there was no hip bone in the tray. See, because my OR one time got an idea. They would remove the hip bone, and the doctor said, we don't need to send that to pathology. And they'd leave it on the end of the corkscrew and send it to SPD. And I said, why is it in SPD? What do you want me to do with the hip bone? And the doctor said to me, you can just throw it away, Miss Golden, what's the big problem? I said, we can't just throw hip bones in the trash. When they get to the landfill and find the hip bone, what are they going to do? Look for the rest of the body. So, that being said, I need somebody with critical thinking, because see, the robot would just throw it on up there. And the other robot on the clean side would just pull it on out, because this is the truth. We have people in our departments that would say, oh, it's the hip bone on the end of the corkscrew. Oh, and they put it in the tray. And it'll end up back in the OR. And the OR is going to fall out. Bam! They're going to call for you managers. Get up here right now, because we need you to see. Now, things like this happen in my hospital. I'm going to talk about my place. And they sent for me, and I say, you know what, we're wrong. SPD is wrong. But how do you think the hip bone got on the end of the corkscrew? And And I'm looking at my tech, I'm looking at my assistant, my surgical first assistant, and I'm looking at my nurse. I'm saying, just how do you think it got in the tray in the first place? Since you all did a count, straightened up your tray, and made sure everything was right. How did I get here? But I'm going to tell you that we need the human beings with critical thinking, because I have even received a leg in SPD. I know none of you all have, because I'm at a 100-year-old hospital. And we don't do things always right. And I wanted to know, and the leg was technically, because I'm short, was as tall as me. And I said, what do you want us to do with the leg? But if I had a robot, do you think my robot would have said, this is a leg, let's put it to the side? I don't really think so. Because robots are programmed by human beings that we hope have critical thinking. So computers are only as good as the person that's inputting the information, right? And the person that is receiving the information out. So technology, machines, and robots, we still need a human being. We need the human factor, but we need the human factor that has ability to have critical thinking. Here's a rotary washer disinfector automated system. And I mean, they caught this picture, you actually see that little basket sweeping right into the machine. But some human being had to line it up. And they had to line it up correctly so that it could be on track correctly to go into the machine. This is from, I'm in a 100-year-old hospital. My department was just renovated. We used to be the board. So when I got there, talking technology, they were complaining about the work that the SPD technicians did, and the doctors felt that we were all a little stupid and or crazy. And I went in there and said, maybe if you gave us some lights, we could see. And I said, have you gotten anything clean ever from this group? And they said, well, some days they're pretty good. And I said, well, then you need to applaud them, because it is dark in the former morgue, and we can't see anything. Because really, I guess in the morgue, you don't need a whole lot of light. People are dead, and it can be dark. But for an SPD that has to reprocess instrumentation, we need lots of light. And as we're becoming an older generation, we need lights, glasses, magnifiers, and some robots to read the numbers on the instruments for us, right? So there's a hospital in South Carolina, my friend Andy's hospital, and they must have money, because he has this robot that actually picks up the case card, takes it to the OR, and brings it back. Wow. I'm doing that with human beings. And I mean, it just goes on about, I was there, it just goes on about its way. You don't have to say move faster, go to room 8, what are you doing, where have you been? You just don't back. So I went to my administrator and showed him this picture. I said, do you think in the new hospital we could get a robot? And he's like, I don't know what you're doing, Sharon, but stop it. We're going to be on the same floor with the OR, and I don't think we're going to need, I'm like, we're going to need all these things, because we're thinking 10 years down the road where we're going to be. We're doing less and less inpatient surgery and more outpatient surgery, and we're going to need to be able to grow for this room. And in my city, we're doing total joint replacements where the people go home the same day. I wouldn't do it as a patient, but there's been a few crazy people that was willing to go home. I've had my knee replaced, so I'm talking to pain. They were willing to run on home the same day. But the bottom line is we need the space, and if we had this robot thing running, we'd be guaranteed a certain amount of space. See, I was thinking about space, because I have helped build an SPD before, and I always went to architectural meetings talking technology, where every time they needed more space, they said, take it from where? SPD. And I'd have to be there to fight to say, stop saying that. You can't take any more space from us. I've been to hospitals that have the smallest decontamination area. How do you clean anything I have ever seen? And these are, I'm not talking about 100-year-old hospitals that's used in the morgue. I'm talking about people who have modern hospitals. So I'm trying to already get my administration to understand she's thinking really, really lots of stuff. And the more automation I can get, the more space I will effectively have. Because I do believe that we need technology machines, and I'm going to show you next a robot, because I think there is a place, but I think I need a human being with critical thinking standing behind it. How many of you all have seen Penelope? Raise your hand. I want Penelope. So you know I'm going to show you Penelope. I've been to my administration, and I said, well, what about the robot? And he really tried to die. Here we have Penelope. And Penelope CS is in its infancy, but if you can have a futuristic vision, you're able to sit back and understand, move over, Rosie, Penelope is here. And Rosie, of course, is from the Jetsons. Remember Rosie ran around with George? And I'm trying to get a Rosie at my house. She did lots of things. Penelope. So I'm going to show you. Here we go. I guess we don't have the sound up. Hold up a minute. Technology, see?
After a surgical procedure, used instruments must be cleaned, counted, inspected, and sterilized before they can be used again. This is the job of an often overlooked, yet critical department called sterile supply. In a typical month, a modern sterile supply can process over 1 million surgical instruments. It's a labor-intensive, costly process that directly impacts the hospital's main profit center, the OR. A delay or an error in sterile supply can impact scheduling, cost, and even patient safety in the OR. Surprisingly, there's been no effort to automate this manual and in some ways antiquated process. Until now. Introducing Penelope CS, a robot automating several key functions in sterile supply. Penelope CS will apply tried and true automation techniques from the manufacturing world to dramatically increase efficiency, improve quality, and reduce errors. Penelope CS will work on the clean side of sterile supply, counting, inspecting, sorting, and packing instruments. The robot will ensure that each tray sent to the OR will have exactly those instruments specified on the count sheet, and that they are all in good working order. And like a good robot, it will do this automatically, precisely, and reliably, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Penelope CS will save hospitals money through increased labor efficiency, quality improvement in tray count accuracy, better inventory control and management, and reduced liability. Penelope CS, bringing automation to the sterile supply of the future.
Penelope. Yeah, I really was wanting Penelope to decontain. Penelope could wash some instruments and make sure that needles were not still in needle holders, and blades were not still on knife handles. Things were done right. That would really save us some time. And now we have all these vendor trays, and you see Penelope picking up the vendor tray. We wouldn't have to worry about our backs and our shoulders. But the reality is that's not where Penelope is. But where she is, I can see a good reason to have Penelope. Now, I met Dr. Trent. And Dr. Trent he looked at me because you all know I did that Today Show piece where I said we can't have no robots. And Dr. Trent was very excited at me. He said, because I was over there making a robot. And you were on national TV saying you don't need a robot. I was basically talking about robotic people and robots that just can do something. I'm not against having a robot in my SPD, and I would like to be a baby station. Because I know that my tray would be strung correctly. I would not have a tray go to the OR where it needed 6 Kellys and it only had 4. Or it had a towel clip with the tooth missing because the person putting it in said, oh, it looked like a towel clip. I didn't really inspect it. It's fine. Throw it in there. So I can see a place for Penelope in our future. And it will help us to be faster because you can set your tray up with your basic retractors, right? And Penelope would hand you your string. Bam. So now your person that only does 20 trays in 8 hours could almost double. Because the accuracy of the stringed instruments would be precise. But that's only if Penelope has been programmed correctly and she's in a good mood. I can also see Penelope being mad one day and throwing instruments out that box. That's the reality. Because I go in some Mondays and my whole computer system is down, dead, and not doing nothing. And I have gotten a group of human beings with the ability to have critical thinking who we've taught to use a tracking system that when the system is down, they look at me and say, what are we going to do? There's no tracking system. And I say to the ones that have been there 50 years, we're going to do it like we used to do it in the olden days. A piece of paper and ink pen. And they can't function. What, a paper, ink pen? What do you want me to do? So I can understand that if I had a robot, she would help me, but only when she was on her game. Now, understand, Penelope requires a human being to put the instruments on the rack. And the human being is supposed to check the instrument to a certain point before they put it on the rack. So Penelope is not a freestanding robot. She doesn't go and get her own stuff. She only does what she's programmed to do. We have integrated sterilizer tracking and paperless record systems. Technology has taken us from the days of a little bowl of water over the fire, a bullet between the teeth with a swig of alcohol, and let's do surgery, to where we are today. And those of us that have tracking systems, we really cannot go without them. You know, they're looking to cut money, and they say, how can we cut money? And I don't know about your pencil pushers, but mine said, well, do they really need a tracking system in the SPD? What are they tracking? And I have to go to the meeting and say, yes, we need a tracking system in the SPD. If we don't get a tracking system, y'all not going to give but 10 trays a day, because, you know, we're not going to make it function. Because I have a group of people now that have to have computers and have to have wands. They can't function anymore without it. We are technology driven. Machines, robots, technology. Oh, they got a place in SPD. They can help you to enhance the work you do. They can allow you to work smarter and not harder. They can allow you to put a quality product out, but only if you have a human being that's back there making sure that it's correct. The reason we have endoscopes being used that are still dirty is because the human being didn't look at it. The human being didn't follow the instructions for use. Nothing about technology. That's all human. And we want human beings in SPD. At least I do. Human factors. Human factors examine the relationship between human beings and the systems in which they interact. So, by focusing on improving efficiency, creativity, productivity, and job satisfaction with the goal of minimizing something that we have every day in every SPD, errors. Nothing is worse than having a group get ready to do a surgery, and I called them my team members, and they didn't do their part. And the doctor say, pass me the jigajou, and they look over there and they say, what is it that they say? SPD didn't give us one. And I tell my team members in the OR, I need for you to set your tray up, your back table up, I need for you to come out of the lounge, stop drinking coffee, and set your table up so that you know what you don't have before that. I don't care really about technically the doctor, but before that patient gets on that bed, I need for you to have what you need. It is not fair that the patient get added anesthesia while we're running around downstairs in the SPD, because I'm down in the former morgue, looking for a jigajoo that gave me a nickname. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm looking. Because the phone keeps ringing. Do you have a jigajoo yet? Do you have a jigajoo yet? If you would stop calling me, I could really look. What does the jigajoo look like? Oh, you mean you really want the Maryland dissector? My team members. But we have technology. They have a packing list that came in your tray. Guess where it was? And it had a big X that said there was no Maryland. And at my little hospital, we started this little process we're trying to help, where we put a little red dot on the luggage tag. So if it has a red dot, it means something's missing. So you turn the luggage tag over and it says Maryland missing. We even have a Maryland up in seal peel ready because we got some in new, but because nobody's reading, we didn't have it for the patient. And because this person says, as they say to me, well, you know, I just got to doing my work on, I've been working in so-and-so China for 10 years, and we call it the jigajoo. Well, you don't call it that here, and you'll never get it calling it a jigajoo. Oh, I have doctors that say, when I was in med school, we called it the whatever, whatever, and I say, very well, sir, but you'll never get it calling it the jigajoo. Because, see, the real name is Maryland dissector. And the reason you need to know the real name is because he wants to know. Have you all had doctors ask you why you have to put the real name on the paper? Yes. Because when I get ready to buy it and I call Aesculap or Symmetry or Integra and I say, hi, I need to get pricing for a jigajoo, they say, what is that? So we try to put forth reasons to keep from having errors, using technology as much as we can, but we need human beings to do their part, am I right? And if the human beings do their part, then that works in conjunction with the technology. A failure to apply human factors is a key aspect of most adverse events in healthcare. We had I know nobody else has ever had this happen. I got called to the OR because they was getting ready to do their case. Everything was ready, and they called me because when they looked over in the tray finally, and the doctor said, hand me the number 3 knife handle, it already had a blade on it. So they sent for me right away. I don't put blades on anything. But they felt I needed to be there because it had come back with a blade. And I am who I am, so I go in and I say, what's wrong? The doctor said a lot of words that are not in English. And the technician's looking at me crazy and holds up this knife handle. He says, do you see this? I said, yeah, a knife handle with a blade on it. It came up like that. I said, wow. I said, how do you figure it got downstairs like that? I said, because we don't put blades on knife handles. And technically, my staff does not know how to take them off. They'll just slice their finger off. I really don't want my staff taking knife blades off handles because they would cut themselves just to be off for 6 weeks. Some things I just don't want to come down. So I said to the OR tech, if you didn't send it down, it wouldn't have come up. I said, so this is the bottom line. So the doctor says to me, we need some heads need to roll. I said, you're right, some heads need to roll. I said, I'm going to roll the head downstairs, but we're going to have to roll some heads up in the OR. And he said, what do you mean? I said, had your technician and your nurse, when they were doing their final count, really been counting, they would have been missing that nice. So, I'm willing to find Looney Boo if you're willing to let Dorothy, John, and Mary go. Of course, everybody still has their job. Because when they thought about it, it was only fair. But in the meantime, while we're having this discussion, who is getting the short end of that stick? The patient. So I've tried to teach my team how to check their instruments. And we have technology, we have some machines, we have automation. But I need people with critical thinking and eyes to see, and the willingness to be committed to do the job correctly, that these things don't happen. Human factors. We make mistakes. I'm not above saying we don't. And I'm not above saying that if we had some really good robots walking around with whips and chains, maybe we could do better. But you cannot allow people to come in from the outside who really have never ever worked in the sterile processing and spend 2 hours with you, walking around following you while you're trying to explain, this is what we do here, this is what we do there, and then they go to the C-suite at 4:30 and we have that round robin meeting and they say, they have too many people. You have to be able to justify the people in your department, what they do, how they do, and you have to be able to say that they're doing it to the best of their ability. And the only way you can say that is if you are doing some teaching and some coaching. You can't coach the robot, you can only program her. I have a tracking system that will go unnamed that I wish I could shoot. My tracking system will not allow me, if I go running to the autoclave and I'm getting ready to put a load in, and they call down and say, at 2 o'clock we're going to need the Allen arm instead of something else. I cannot take a tray off of that load, put the Allen arm on the load, and reprogram what is in the load. It won't allow me to do that. I would have to mentally remember, when that load comes out, please go write down on the paper that you switched items. To me, that's ridiculous. But that's technology. And I'm sure at some point when they first started that tracking system, it was okay. But here we are years later, and we need more reports, and we need our tracking systems to do more and more to help us stay abreast of what it is we're doing. Reducing errors. So the aviation industry requires individual pilots to use a number of personal checklists to monitor their performance. We, healthcare workers, but we in SPD need some checklists. The tracking system is one. That's why I look at my people as I have to write them up and say, how is it that you don't have the 4 mosquitoes on your tray? And it asks for 8. And the tracking system I have, you actually physically have to go and say, tick 8. So I assume you're counting 8. And my team would say, yes, I did. I counted. They was there. I said, so where do you think they went? Your paper says it was there. Yes, it does. But they don't have it. I've been to the OR room and they don't have them. They haven't thrown them away yet. We've been in the trash. They're not there. Because I will defend my team. But I tell them I'll be the first person, I'll be on the side with the rest of the people point and say, why did you do that if you're wrong? I'll throw you under the bus like everybody else. Reducing errors. We can't afford to have the errors. So technology, machines, robots. I like having Penelope because I feel that I'm going to be secure if she's on a good day, that I'm going to have all 8 of those mosquitoes. And they're going to work. I'm going to have tile clips and they're going to have the pointed tooth on it. I've been called because the doctor says, what am I supposed to do with this? I said, what's wrong? He says, the towel clip doesn't have any teeth. And I got to take the towel clip, go back downstairs, find Lulu Boo. Lulu Boo, look at this. That's my human being. And Lulu Boo looks at it and says, what's wrong? I said, do you notice anything missing? Like a tooth? Oh, man. I didn't see that. So I tried to appeal to something bigger than just the towel clip. And I say to Lulu Boo, honey, you're killing people. Do you know you're harming people? Do you know that people depend on you to do a job? They don't get to meet you. And I understand CS professionals. I see the letters all up in the OR and cookies and cakes and candies and pies. Thank you, OR team, for a wonderful job. Woo-woo! And I say, well, wait a minute, we did something. I am who I am, so my doctors understand me because they're arrogant, and you know how they are. I had a doctor when I first went, he looked at me and says, do you know who I am? I said, no, sir, who are you? He says, I'm Dr. Cohen, I'm in charge of neurosurgery, and he told me a lot of things. I said, okay. I'm Miss Golden. I'm the SPD manager. And if I don't produce instruments, you're just a man with gloves. I have a reputation, and my doctors are good friends. And they know I'm willing to stand with them because I feel I am just as important as they are. I tell people, technology, machines, robots, you look at Grey's Anatomy, and Dr. Bailey is doing her thing. The anesthesiologist is doing his thing. The nurse is doing her thing. The movie is just going right on. And then they pan the camera, and somewhere in the movie it says, pass the scalpel.